Hey everyone, welcome to the Racers 360 track breakdown of Buttonwillow clockwise. This is Dion here. I'll be your coach today, walking through what we look for a fast and safe lap around Buttonwillow. So we're starting off here on the front straightaway, going into turn one. As we're approaching, you can see here is the start-finish line. Always wanted to be kind of looking up at our flag marshal here, looking just in case there's something through turn one. So Buttonwillow is a pretty challenging track. There's some really fast corners, and then some pretty technical sections that really test our eyes, our trail braking ability, and then also our commitment level on the racetrack as well. In turn one, there is a great reference point for our brake zone. I am looking for the start of this curve here on our right-hand side. So you can see there's an access road. The start of this curve is where I want to hit the brakes. Turn one's a really challenging corner. It's easy to overslow this corner. So it's really easy to hit these brakes hard and be staring at this curve and not get our eyes transitioning towards the apex. So right now, our eyes have to be looking into the apex already. We're wanting to be looking down here, picking up our brake marker with the peripheral vision. That's what's going to allow you to have that hard hit of the initial brakes and immediately start to release off of that brake pressure to roll in speed, because we can roll a good amount of entry speed in. So as we're coming in here, we're going braking right at the start of this curve, focused in, really nice, light, slow turn-in. You can see there's not a great turn-in marker, and one thing that we've often seen is drivers turning a little bit early and drivers starting to apex either before or at the start of this apex curve. We want to turn in slower so that we don't apex there. We're looking to apex after the start of this apex curve, about a car length or so later. So you can see here our driver did a pretty good job of that. They apex slightly early, which is mean they're not able to commit to aggressive throttle at the apex point here. So next point is, once we started to apex, our initial throttle is only coming here. You want to roll as much speed as you can, trail braking pretty deep into this corner. If you need a little bit of coast, use a little bit of coast, committing the throttle here. We really need to get our eyes up looking for that exit as well. One thing that you often don't hear about being spoken about, that we focus a lot on our personalized coaching, is not just using all of the road on exit, but when do you get out to that exit curve? So in turn one, we often see a driver using all the road, but they're not getting out there early enough. So you can see here, our driver does get all the way out to this exit curve, but notice how they get out there almost near the end of this exit curve. So their eyes were slightly low and they weren't opening their hands as much as early and as much as we'd like to see them. So you can see here, they still have a lot of steering. They should be opening their hands. We want to see them parallel with the exit curve by now. So you want to get out, use that track, but use it early. And by doing that, by opening your hands a little bit more, a little bit earlier, you're able to flow a little bit more speed and get back to that full throttle earlier as well. So coming out, using all this road, here's our next little flag stand to just take a look at before we get into turn two right there. Turn two is a pretty tricky corner. So we've just had a lot of speed. The final corner is fast. We have a long front straightaway. We have a fast turn one. It's easy to overdrive into turn two. So our turning point is just past this flag stand here on our right. As we're coming in, we're typically starting our brake point somewhere in this region right now, just for most cars, before you get to this left-hand curve. We're braking. And after we get past this left-hand curve, see what our driver does. They add a little bit more steering to the left to hold the car a little bit more to the left before turning back to the right. So where a lot of drivers go wrong is they sort of keep this straight line and they just brake straight into this next apex. They don't have that little kink out to the left. So we want to make sure, just at the end of this curve, the car dips, is kind of bouncing here, kink it back to the left just a little bit. That's going to open the radius of the corner to the right, which is going to allow you to roll a little bit more speed, work on that rotation, so we can get our exit out of turn two, so we head down to the 3-4 section here. So coming in, we want to be apexing here. Our initial throttle applications only when you're ready to start unwinding the steering wheel. Only right here. That's where we're starting to get to our initial throttle application. And then out of turn two here, a lot of drivers like to keep it all the way to the inside and like hug the inside until we're in a straight line. Instead, do what our driver does here. They get aggressive back to the throttle, then they use every little bit of the road. So see how our driver is actually pretty close to the outside of the track out over here? That's where we want to be. Where a lot of drivers end up doing, though, is more hugging this inside. So see how we're coming away from that white line? You want to be getting your eyes up and letting the car be free. I would much rather be full throttle a little bit earlier and use an extra meter of track or drive an extra 2, 3, 4 meters rather than trying to shortcut the distance, but then you're fighting the car. So here, use every inch of the road, let the car be free so that you can get back to full throttle as early as possible at turn 2, which is really what matters. Great, so now we're gonna come into this 3-4 section, a really important trail break here. So we want to sacrifice a little bit through turn 3 to set up for the next left-hander. So anytime we're really trying to sacrifice and hold the car a little bit to the inside, we really want an elongated trail break. Because what we're looking for is more rotation. The more rotation we're able to get, I mean, up to a point, obviously we don't want to spin, but the more rotation we can get, the more we can hold it to the inside at a higher speed. So really critical to not get to throttle until after the apex in this first right-hander. Flow as much speed as you can in and really trail brake. So we're coming in. The start of this curve here on our left-hand side is a pretty good marker for our brake zone. So we have a hard hit, and we need our eyes focused in for that apex. We're starting to trail off, trail off, trail off, trail off. Our driver turned in a tiny bit early. They did a pretty good job of not apexing that early, though. While we're here, you can see the next flag stand is just to the right side of the car here at the apex. So we want a little bit later of a turning point and a little bit later of an apex point. You can see here, I'd like to see them apex about a third of a car length later. And I'm trail braking, trail braking, trail braking. So right now, you can see we want the weight on the front nose, so at a higher speed, we can keep it to the right. If I am getting the throttle here, the front nose is going to pick up, and the car is going to push me to the left. So that's where I can't hold it to the right at a higher speed. We're trail braking past that apex. Only about here am I going to get a little quick squirt of full throttle. Quick squirt of full throttle, and then off, a little bit of a coast to this next left-hander, and then this next left-hander, don't worry about over-sacrificing it. I actually don't want to keep the car perfectly to the left. I feel like I have to slow the car down so much to hold it always to the left that it's not worth it for the next right-hander. Because the next right-hander is blind. It really is a little bit of bouncy in there as well. So what you're going to benefit from is a little bit more momentum into that corner. Now, I also don't want to be all the way out to the right-hand side. You can see here, let's take a look at what our driver places their car as we turn in here. So see how they're more middle of the road? That's actually what I want to be. That's a good compromise between a little bit of sacrifice, not using all the road. That's the right amount. Coming in, really light brake. Some cars may even just be a lift. Completely blind on exit here. So what you don't want to do when you have a completely blind corner, you don't want to apex too early. So if you're just starting off here, err on this side of a little bit later of an apex, because that's going to give you a little bit more margin for error on the exit. If you really turn in early, you're going to fly over the side. Now, eventually you can start to bring that back and turn a little bit earlier. You can see here we're apexing right at the top of this hill, right at the middle of that curve there. Well, it's actually not the middle of the curve. It looks like it is, but the thickest part where it really stands out or sticks out the most, right here. That's our apex point. Once again, another flag stand in our inside there. We want to be coming in and apexing, and we really don't want to get anywhere close to the throttle until we kind of really get the car to land a little bit. So it really lifts up, trying to commit to throttle, back to full throttle here, rolling that speed. This next corner, for some cars, it might just be flat. For most of us, it'll be a lift turning in. Not a great marker, but see how quickly that comes up on you here. So we're coming up, we're landing. We need our eyes already looking for that next apex there. There's a good amount of camber. When there's camber, we want a tiny bit early of a turn-in point here. So you can see we're getting our car pointed in. We take advantage of that camber. Our driver does a really nice job. They're apexing just past the start of this apex curve, which is exactly where we want to be. Coming in, all about entry speed, flowing that back on with the throttle, using all the road on exit. So this next corner is one we also see a lot of mistakes on. So this next complex, you have this fast right, and then you have a left that is kind of this like not quite a chicane, but there's a little bit of movement in there. So what we see a lot of drivers doing is they will sacrifice a little bit in this corner to get back to the right and set up to the next left-hander. We don't want to do that. We actually want to prioritize this corner here. It's the fastest corner. So when the corner is a little bit higher speed, we typically will look at focusing more there because there's more time that can be gained. It's also going to be a little bit longer of a distance. So we're going to come in here. Let's maximize this corner. You can see we're turning in about mid-curve on our left. We want to apex right about the middle of this curve and then use every inch of the road all the way out there. Don't hold it to the right here to set up for the next left-hander. You're just costing yourself time. Maximize, prioritize this corner here, use all that road, and then hustle the car back to the right. You are never going to have your hands straight in between here. So you're immediately turning right, you're holding it right, you're holding it right, you're holding it right. See here, our driver got a little bit lazy in this section. They could have flowed a little bit more through this next right-hander. They would have to hustle it more to the right, but they would have gotten back pretty close to where they are right now. They would be entering this next left-hander a little bit faster because they didn't sacrifice. And then that's going to be faster all the way through this next little section here as well. So this next little section is pretty complicated. It's a really awkward break zone into the left-hander before we go into the bowl. So we're going to come in, we're apexing about middle of this curve as well, committing the throttle. So in here, what's important for this next left-hander is keeping up our minimum speed. It's really easy. We've just had a bunch of fast corners to outbrake ourselves. It's not important to break super deep into this corner. And it's a corner that I find quite often I can't really trail break. I feel like I'm always catching the rear through here. So I do a lot of coasting in here, which is totally fine. So we're going to come in. We're sort of braking right about the start of this curve. But just before we get to the start of this curve, let's see if we can see where our driver starts to brake. Back this up a little bit. Coming in. Braking right about here, short brake zone. So almost, I try to trail brake and I want to trail brake here, but if you feel like you're always losing the rear, start to get light on that brake pressure just at the turning point and coast. It gets bumpy right in here. I like to avoid this curve on the inside. I think it upsets the car too much. That's very much a car by car thing. If you have a very soft, rolly car, you might be able to use that. If you have a little bit stiffer car like the one we're in right now or looking at right now, try to avoid it. I'm trying to get back to throttle right there at the apex. If I'm going to make a mistake here, it's typically I'm not able to get to the throttle until it's too late versus too early. So come off, a little bit of coast, rolling the speed, use every inch of the road. So now we're getting ready for the bowl. What we're looking for in the bowl is entry speed. There's a lot of camber in here, so we want to take advantage of that. So typically I'm going to be driving it in and get the car pointed in flat or very close to flat, and then I'm going to come off the throttle and roll in speed, maybe a little light brake. What I don't want to be able to do here is hold the inside all the way through. So notice here with our driver, we play this full speed. They're just able to hug the inside. I know immediately that means they're not taking advantage of the camber. They're under driving the car through this section. So I want to come in, get the car down to the white line, but then I want enough speed so the car takes me about a half car width off the inside, maybe a 3/4 of a car width off the inside. So then I want to start running a little bit wider up, and then I've got two options here. So if you are in a soft car that takes bumps really well, I'll come back in and get my second apex just past the start of this curve. If I run it a little bit wider up the hill, I've got less steering input here, which means I'm able to be faster in, get more rotation, and as I come back down, I've got a better car angle on the exit, so I'm able to get back to full throttle as well. Now, for most cars that I've driven here, there is a big bump right here at the apex. And this black patch often upsets the car. What I have tried to start to do, which seems to work well in most cars I've driven, is actually run about a car width wide of the apex here. Avoiding that bump pays off more than just kind of deal with it to apex. So try this. It's very dependent on the type of car you're in. The bump really upsets the car. Try just running like a half car width off the inside here And if you're running wider through the middle of the bowl where you should be, this becomes actually really easy to do. Just be a little bit wider than this, and that's going to allow you to get back to flat a little bit earlier. Use all that road on exit, hustle the car back to the right. This next left-hander is extremely fast. There's nothing really, no visuals you can use to help you here. It's extremely fast. You want to be really smooth on the steering wheel. You want to apex about middle of the curb. For most cars, it's just a lift, maybe not even a full lift. Some of you might just be flat through here, but it's very rare that I've been flat through here. Using all of the road on exit, then again, you had to hustle the car back to the left for this next uphill blind right-hander. There's a lot more speed that you can bring into this right-hander than you think. So let's take a look. Where's our driver braking here? Just before they get to this left side curb, about a car length or two is a pretty good brake zone. Now this is a corner where we want a hard initial brake, immediately start to come off of it so we can roll speed up over the crest of the hill here. So we're kind of come in here. We're starting to bend the car in. You need your eyes looking. You almost want to feel like you're sitting up in the car trying to look over the top of the hill here. You really need your eyes focused in. See, the next flag stands on the inside of the corner here. And what we are trying to do is turn slow enough. We can't turn very late here. With an uphill corner, you want earlier turn-ins, but you really need to turn slow enough to roll that speed and not apex too early. We don't want to apex the start of this apex curve. If you're apexing the start of this apex curve, you're apexing too early, especially when you're new here. Err on a slightly later apex to give yourself margin for error on the exit here because it's completely blind. You see here, you can't see the exit. I am trail braking, even a little bit of coast. As I come up the hill, I'm apexing right at the top of the hill is exactly where I want to apex. And I'm only starting to get to throttle just as the car lands on the other side of it. And then using all of the track on exit here, go, 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 to get a run down this next straightaway nice and smooth through here. This next right hand, it's not a hairpin. It's a very, very tough corner. It's really easy to overshoot it, or it's really easy to overslow trying to trail brake super deep into it. So what's important here is really good braking technique. So we need that hard hit initial brakes, and I'm immediately starting to lighten off pressure. And I want to trail brake around the corner as much as possible. There's not a great braking marker here. You can see our drivers braking before they get to this curb on our left. Some cars will be able to use the start of this curb on the left as a good braking marker. A little bit higher horsepower, lower grip cars, you'll have to be braking before that. It's a pretty complicated corner to find the right brake zone in. So braking in that region, immediately lighten. We're turning in, again, no real visuals here for the turn-in marker. You're sort of having to get your eyes in and use your depth perception to help you. But we want to turn in slowly, and we don't want to apex the start of that apex curve. So once again, here's the start of the apex curve. Notice how our driver does a good job turning slow and not getting there too early. So we're going to be trail braking, no throttle. Really critical here not to pick up the throttle until you're ready to unwind the steering wheel. A lot of drivers here are too early to throttle, and that kills the run through the S's. So you got to be really patient, little bit of a coast if you need. And then here's our apex point. It's pretty far around this corner. You can see here, it's right about where this flag stand is at the end of it. That's where we're going to start to feed in this throttle using every inch of the road on exit as well. So let's just watch that full speed really quick here. We're coming in, hard brake, release, slow. Wait, go. Patience. Then into the S's, it's all about your eyes. You need to be looking through the corners as much as possible. They're really fast. The curbs are big. You want to stay off the curbs. And it's about emphasizing fast in, fast out. I don't really care about the middle of it so much. What I'm thinking about is trying to hold full throttle as much in, and then how early can I get back to full throttle. That's what matters. A lot of drivers will try to hold a dull maintenance throttle all the way through. No, focus on full throttle, lift, wait, full throttle. When you use the maintenance throttle, we're not shifting the weight correctly, and it's going to mean you're going to have to get off of full throttle earlier than I'd like to see, and you're not going to get back to full throttle until it's too late. So the first one we're driving in, pretty firm, holding it right. This is where we're starting to come back to the left, just at the end of this access road. We typically are going to be flat to about this point for most cars. We're going to have a nice little touch of an apex here, holding it just a little bit left before we're coming back to the right, holding it to the right, and we're looking all the way through. So once again, what matters is trying to get back to full throttle here as early as possible. Most cars, most drivers will be able to get back to full throttle somewhere in this region to get the run. So as I come into this corner, into the S's, sorry, we're trying to hold full throttle, full throttle, full throttle, full throttle, full throttle, full throttle, full throttle. This is typically where I'm going to need to lift. Higher downforce car can get a little bit deeper, lower downforce car maybe a little bit earlier. Lift, a little bit of throttle, lift, then trying to work back to full throttle, full throttle, full throttle as early as possible to get that run into the back, into the final corner, sorry. You can see they're trying to make a little bit of a straight line. Into the final corner, there's a good amount of camber here. So while the exit's what matters more, it's very easy to underdrive this corner. So what we're really focused in on is, again, where are we picking up that initial throttle? Really waiting to start unwinding the wheel before we get to throttle, but rolling in speed a little bit early of a turning point to take advantage of that camber. So we're coming in, braking. Again, no great brake marker here. You can see we're braking just about the start of this flag stand here to the inside, where just before the pit road starts to go, but we don't really want to be looking over to our left. So we're really using our peripheral vision. We're looking for that apex already. Here's about our brake marker. And again, it's a very short brake, so hard initial brake, start to lighten, lighten, lighten. You can see here, it's a pretty early turn-in point. Notice where our driver, let's see, go back to the start of this curve here on the right. So we're turning about 2 to 3 car lengths past the end of that curve on our right. Again, no great visual. It's hard to get a feel for 2 to 3 car lengths when you're in the race car. You're really reliant on your peripheral vision, on your depth perception here. Early-ish turn-in point. Now, that doesn't mean we're apexing anywhere from here to here. We really want to apex right in the middle of this curve. That cone's in a really nice area. This is our apex point. You can see there's a good amount of camber in here, and we're not touching the throttle until we get down to that apex point. So we're rolling, coming off the brakes, a little bit of coast, a little bit of coast. Our driver does a great job getting into that camber. That's where we're getting the throttle. Now remember, we've just dropped in. We've just got a lot of compression here in the camber, so you can be a little bit more aggressive to throttle here, but you have to start to unwind the steering wheel right away. And like we talked about at the exit of turn 1, it's not always just about using all the track on exit, but how early do you get out to that exit curve as well. So notice how our driver only gets out and really parallel with the exit curve by the end of it. I think they could start to unwind the steering wheel a little bit earlier, and they could be out in parallel with the exit curve right now, which would mean they're able to, at a little bit higher speed, get back to full throttle earlier, which is going to help them all the way down to turn 1. So that's been our track breakdown from Racers 360 for Buttonwillow clockwise. We really hope it's been helpful for you. And if you're looking for ways that you can go faster on this racetrack, really recommend sending and uploading your video data to one of our Racers 360 coaches. Some of the world-class coaches will go through your video just like this and give you a personalized coaching lesson for under $100. Best bang for the buck that's out there. We've helped a lot of drivers around Buttonwillow. We really love to help you. Best of luck. And we look forward to working with you soon and hopefully go win some races.